What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video we're working on the 1996 Toyota Camry Station Wagon again, and I'm replacing the rear struts. This is wagon specific because the springs are different and you cannot put sedan springs or sedan struts on a station wagon. It will sag. You won't be able to haul much of anything because, trust me, I know that from experience. My Corolla is sitting on sedan springs right now because nobody makes station wagon springs for this. But don't worry, coilovers are coming soon for this. Anyway, 1996 Toyota Camry Station Wagon, rear strut replacement. Let's go. All right, first things first, let's safely raise and support the vehicle on jack stands. So for the rear struts, I won't start by taking off the wheels. I'm actually going to start by removing the top bolts that hold the struts in, and those are mounted behind the seats. Well, not really behind the seats, but we need to take this cushion off so that you can lift that little triangle looking area there, and that'll expose the mounting points for the strut. So what you want to do is lift up the bottom cushion, and there's a bolt right there. That's a 12mm. Take that out. Once that's undone, you want to fold the seat forward. Doesn't have to go all the way down. And now you can grab onto this cushion, push it up and out of the way, and that exposes this area. This part of the cushion actually goes over this lip right here, so that's why you need to take this out, otherwise you won't be able to slide this panel up. Now let's do the same thing on that side. Once that's done, you can crawl into the trunk and remove your privacy cover. And if you have one of these wagons, obviously why else would you be watching the video, but anyway, you probably already know, you pull on this and it pops right out. Same on the other side. And then you want to just move this so it's out of your way. So next, you want to take a Phillips head screwdriver and remove this mounting screw. That is the only thing that holds this plate on, except for some metal clips that you can just pop out. So once that's taken off, grab the plastic piece and you want to pull straight up and it should come right out. This side is attached to the seat belt. You don't have to take it off. On this side it's not. There's no seat belt that goes through it. But there's your strut and there's your strut. Okay, now that the top is exposed, I'm going to take the wheel off. If you don't have an electric or pneumatic impact, take it off before you jack up the car, otherwise the wheel's just going to want to spin on you, or you can put the e-brake on. Okay, next you want to remove the brake hose that's attached to the strut with a 12mm and the ABS wire with a 10mm. So ideally next you want to remove the sway bar link from the strut. I'm replacing the sway bar links with this job. I'm going to put some vice grips on the back of it so I can hold on to the stud, and with a 14mm I'm going to try and break this free. On the other side, which I already have apart, I ended up having to cut the sway bar link because it was too much of an annoyance, and like I said, I have new ones. That's what's most likely going to happen. I strongly suggest you buy new sway bar links when you do old struts like this, because most likely they're not going to come off. And now I can remove my strut. This part is going in the trash, so I don't have to worry about it. So I just have to worry about this end, which I can easily either cut here or try and get it out another way. For the price of the sway bar links, it's much more worth it to do this than to try and save the old one when you're dealing with old, rusty vehicles. That's just my opinion. All right, so now comes the tougher part, and that's removing these bottom bolts. It's not really that tough. You can do it by hand, but I suggest that if you have some sort of an impact, go ahead and use it. 19mm wrench on the bolt side and 19 socket on the nut side. Now I know this bolt is in backwards. They're supposed to go from the front to the back. Whatever, it is what it is. But take this out. Remember, it's still bolted at the top, so it's not going anywhere. The light fell, but here's the nut. Here's the bolt. Now double check that everything is separated, which it is. And with a pry bar, come in here and try to pry the knuckle away. There we go. I removed my ABS wire from the body up here just so I can give it a little bit more slack in case it needs more space to go down. Now let's go up in the trunk and remove the top bolts. I'm going to use a jack stand to support the knuckle here just until I get the top of the strut off so that when it does come down it doesn't break anything. 12mm socket. Take these off, don't lose them, and last one. Now it's going to drop down. It'll only go as far as the knuckle lets it go. Okay, remove the jack stand. And now it's going to take a little bit of maneuvering to get this out, but if you just twist it the right way, you'll have room to get it out. So my other side is disconnected, so I can move the sway bar up and out of my way. That makes it so I can bring the strut back, and out it comes. So like I said, I'm replacing my sway bar links, so I put in a new one here. Here's the strut. I reused the old spring because it was still in good condition, and finding wagon springs is not the easiest thing to do. There are a few companies out there that do make wagon springs. I don't think anybody makes a whole assembly. You can look, unless you get coilovers, I don't think you're gonna find a whole assembly. So I just had a shop swap over the coil spring. It's a sketchy process, so unless you have a good spring compressor, I personally don't recommend doing it. So that's why in the video I'm showing removing the whole assembly and then reinstalling the whole assembly. You can have a shop do it if you'd like, or you can rent the little sketchy side compressor thingies, whatever. You do you, but I don't recommend doing it without a good spring compressor. Anyway, let's get this strut back into the car. Alright, so I'm going to start by putting the strut up in through the bottom. Then I'm going to go to the top and put the nuts on just to secure it and hold it in place. I'm going to have to find the best way to slide these in. Doing this alone is definitely not easy, but doable. So I'm going to place a jack stand underneath the rotor to support the weight of the strut upwards. Alright, so I matched up the holes on the top. That's in. I have a jack stand supporting the rotor and the hub, keeping upwards pressure on the strut. So let's go in here and start the nuts. Alright, so go ahead and start your 3 nuts on. And with your 12mm, run them down. This is not the final time that I'm tightening it. I'm going to wait until the car is back on the ground with upwards pressure on these nuts. Alright, so once you put your bolts in down here, now that everything's already lined up top, go ahead and start your nuts, and then we'll snug them up. I'm going to make them tight with my air gun, but if you want to torque them, I'm going to put the torque specs down in the description. Alright, next I'm going to tighten these bolts up. Use my 19mm wrench and socket. Ow. Next thing I'm going to do is install my sway bar link. Don't judge me for the amount of anti-seize. Things rust around here. Alright, next I'm going to put on the ABS wire. The hold down for this has a little tab. Make sure that goes in its hole. Last thing down here, well, other than the wheel, is the brake hose bracket. Secure that back to the strut. And the last thing we have to do down here is to put on the wheel. Because my parking brake is on, I can torque my wheel right now. The factory torque is 76, but I have bigger wheels and tires, so I'm going to go a little extra. Let's get the car back on the ground. Okay, with the car back on the ground, I can now tighten these up. Again, torque specs are in the description if you want them. If not, make them tight. Okay, that's pretty tight. So putting this back together shouldn't be that difficult if you already took it apart. Looks like these clips right here need to slide in first. Just line up this one, and then there's another one on the back side. Press these down. If your little seatbelt holder popped out, put it back in. Of course, don't forget your mounting screw. Make sure this is nice and snug. At this point, you can put your privacy cover back if you want. If it doesn't fall right in, just pull on this lever and it should fall right in. And last but not least, don't forget to put these cushions back in. When you put these in, this hook needs to slide into that hole. So it's easiest if you actually look through the back window here. You can see it right where it's about to line up. As soon as you have it lined up, wiggle it around and hit it a couple times and it should slide in perfectly. As you can see, the bolt hole lines up right there. So let's get the bolt, start the bolt in, and then snug it down. Watch out with these, don't make them too tight because I have broken a few in the past. All right, this side's done. Fold the seat back up and the bottom. Make sure the seatbelt goes over and not underneath. If it goes underneath, you have to remove the cushion, start over so you can put the seatbelt over, and do the same to the other side. All right, well that sums up the video pretty much. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. Just FYI, every time you do any suspension work, you want to get an alignment, so technically right now you would need an alignment. Also, it's best to do them as a pair, left and right, because otherwise you're going to have an uneven ride height. Having said that, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful. As always, parts and tools and everything down in the description, so check that out if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next one.